right. Judd'z Budz, episode something. Doesn't say it up top. I just panicked and checked that it wasn't there. It just says Judd'z Budz, but it's episode something. As always, your host, Spoke Z, joined. What?
125.
That one. One time Gretzky plus one time Connor Dewar. Anyways, Mr. At State of Hobby, how we doing?
It's been a long day, man. We're powering through. I was telling you, basically a cage match upstairs before I came down. I'm pretty sure the kid headbutted my wife in the nose twice. So that's the kind of day we're
It is wild. Words spoken, 0. Headbutts to mom's face, 2. That's a ratio. I mean, I guess we won't really dilly-dally for too long because for the first time this summer, we have like actual NHL news stuff going on. But before we actually just jump into it, do we want to just shamelessly plug anything or talk about anything real quick?
I mean, that's up to you. I mean, we talked to Scott Wheeler. I got him to confirm that him and Promen are the same person. He just doesn't segregate by height. So that's good.
Yeah.
Actually, so earlier this week, Joe Smith and I went out to, it was the Gopher Hockey Alumni Golf Tournament. And we got to sit down and interview some of the players. And let me just confirm that Nate Schmidt is like the goofiest human I've ever met in my life. And I mean that in the best way possible.
Yeah, that checks out. Like,
actually, the highlight, you'll love this, Z. We sat down with Mike Kester. I think he's a Washington Capitals prospect, if I'm not mistaken. But Brock Faber was like a last-minute ad to be at this. And I asked him, like, okay, so like, what are the renovations we need at the hockey house? What's the first ask from Brock? He's like, well, our microwave stopped working earlier this week. I'm like, jeez, okay.
I mean, you just can't make the shit up. Like it is like
answer.
Yeah, microwave would be good. We can't really. How are we gonna eat? We don't have a microwave. Like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna make real food. I don't know. Because it's cereal every meal for the next little bit here. I love that. Like, that's the best. It's like microwave. Oh, good. All right, that's what you want. Okay, great. I might be able to make that happen.
Maybe.
But yeah, no, the Wheeler interview. People should go check that one out if you want to hear him wax poetic about Zeev Buium and others.
And others. No, it's pretty much the Zeev Buium show. He very, very high on him. Even higher than you were, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Per source, and by source, it's me making shit up. He called him better than Wayne Gretzky. So, I mean, not to spoil the interview here, but those were
he did go higher than the draft.
That's a good point. People forget that. No one's brought that up, you know?
That's why people come here. Deep cuts.
Yeah, we were brave enough. Actually, not we. You were brave enough to say it. And like you said, that's why people come here.
I don't understand why everyone compares people to Wayne Gretzky anyways. Shouldn't we be talking about Mario Lemieux?
Oh, boy. Here we go. Are we gonna?
No, we're not going down
the lid on that one. Or fucking all right, it's a 6-hour episode.
We're just gonna keep going.
Let's go Lemieux game tape, game by game, every game. That would actually be fun. I mean, let's just natural transition. Let's just talk about hockey. Well, not hockey, but what's actually going on. We have offer sheets. We got offer sheets, baby, and like. One that was just like, yeah, I like that. I would like that player at that. I would like to get that player for a fucking third. And then one that was like, whoa. Anyways, St. Louis Blues offer sheet both Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway from the Edmonton Oilers. The official numbers, I just had it up, of course. Philip Broberg, 2 years, $4.58 million, the max amount for them just offering a 2020 or getting a 2025 second round pick. if they choose not to match. Dylan Holloway, 2 by 2.29 million, which would be for compensation a third round pick. I believe that's the total.
Yes. And the crazy thing is, so not many people know this because I haven't talked about it for a while because they just never happen. It's like unicorn shit or gold at the end of the rainbow. I'm obsessed with offer sheets. I think it's the greatest thing in hockey. And a lot of people don't realize what you just said, right? Everyone, even some of the like national pundits like The Athletic came in, they're like, I thought this is insane. I thought like, oh my God, you're giving up a bunch of first round picks for these guys? And he's like, wait a minute. That's not how this works. Holy crap. So like you mentioned, there's a compensation goes by dollar value, and they literally paid both of them a hair under what the threshold is to be able to keep them at the preferable compensation. So if they're under just over, that's confusing for people. 1.5 million, just a hair over that. If you are below that for your offer sheet, no compensation whatsoever. Next tier is close to 2.3 mil. That's a third round pick. Following is just above 4.5 million. That's a second round pick. Then we get into the danger tiers of like, let's see, it was almost 6.9, but we'll say 6.8. It's a first and a third. 9.1 million is a first, second, and third. And then 11.4 is two firsts, second, and third. Above that threshold then of 11.4 becomes 4 first round picks, which I'd love to see one of those thrown out. Real decision to be made. But the real thing that's great is coming from Elliot Friedman. Broberg asked for 1.8. Holloway asked for 1.2. Boy, they're going to regret being greedy on those fucking offers. Because now, like you mentioned, Broberg, 4.58 million, and Dylan Holloway, 2.29 million. I don't see how the Oilers do either, but if they do, it's the only one they can possibly make work is Holloway. And I'm with you. I think that the money on Broberg is high. I also think that it hasn't started awesome for him. I blame Edmonton for a good chunk of that. I think there's more upside to his game than Holloway's. Maybe you disagree.
No, not at all. So, and a little bit more on each of these guys. So Broberg, 8th overall in 2019. Good size, right shot D-man, super high profile in his draft year. Obviously, like you said, has not gone well in Edmonton. Very few drafted players outside of like the guys that went first overall or like Draisaitl there have like it's gone pretty not great for a whole lot of those guys. But especially when you look at like their back end, not the most friendly environment for a young defenseman to be in. He's played a total regular season 81 games, which again, the fact that the money is 4.58 for 2 years. He's played 81 regular season games, 13 points, is dash 5 with 10 pims, averaging just under 13 minutes a night. Played 20 playoff games, where he's actually been real. Like when they inserted him in the lineup, this playoffs, I actually think he looked a lot better than he did the regular season. That's pretty much been the case for him in the past as well. 3 points in 20 playoff games, plus 11, and averaging just over 11 minutes time on ice. Dylan Holloway, 14th overall in 2020, 89 regular season games, 18 points, 56 penalty minutes, dash 1, 10.5 minutes time on ice. Playoffs, 26 games, 7 points, so almost the same amount of regular or playoff points as he has regular season, and just over 11 minutes time on ice. Both players, honestly, have looked like significantly better in the playoffs than they have in the regular season. Holloway, I thought, looked real good towards the tail end and was a big reason that they stretched that final series to 7 games. Like he was a nice complementary piece where he's got really nice hands and skill, but he also can play at speed, to which like was the reason really that he was able to play in Edmonton's top 6. I think they both have decent enough upsides. I don't see Broberg as a top pair D-man. I don't see Holloway. I think Holloway could be a fringe second line guy. But like you said, the 4.58 for Broberg is incredibly high. That's a pretty big bet on the change of scenery, like benefiting him to the max. I totally get it. And like you were saying, the offer sheets never happen. And the ones that do, like the second you see what the offer is, you're like, oh, they're gonna fucking match. Like there's no chance they don't. Like even a big one like Aho, that was never not getting matched. But this one really puts Edmonton in a bind where I think when you look at both players, how young they are, the positions that they play, and the fact that right now they're not going to be signing, or well, in theory, wouldn't have been signing very big tickets. Those are two pretty critical players, not just for now, but like going into the future. If they match and they sign both of those guys, that puts them $7.2 million over the cap as is. And they've got a ton of work to do to get under or be cap compliant for next season. So not only is this two players that St. Louis looks at and says, like, in terms of like what we would give up outside of just the money, not crazy. Two players that, like, when you look at their prospect pool, it's right probably in the middle to the bottom end. And obviously those are two guys that can probably insert, they will be inserted and play right away. So two good players to add into their lineup, both now and in the future. Not crazy compensation in terms of like the picks that you're giving up. And you put Edmonton in a real bind trying to figure out if they actually want to match, which again, if they do match, there's $7.2 million over the cap. So not only is this offer sheet really fun because it's pretty 50-50 whether or not Edmonton's going to match. They're probably not going to match the Broberg one. So it's actually going to be successful, most likely, at least one of the two. But like, it's meaningful players. It's going to be an offer sheet that probably works, at least with one. So it's fun. And then I know Cam Robinson tweeted out that he would asked around the league, and it sounds like there were several teams looking at this exact scenario as well. And with the cap going up, and with some of these contracts around the league, they're like, we say this every year, but it sounds like there's a lot more teams that have the appetite for like throwing out offer sheets more and more. So like the fact that we might get more of these and more that will actually put teams in a bind / be realistic. I love that. That's delicious. That is delicious stuff. We'll use that word again.
The best part, Edmonton really can't clap back because they've got the Draisaitl and McDavid extensions on the horizon. So they can't even take another swing at St. Louis. But I got to ask you, there's 3 potential angles here on how this came to be. Because they did telegraph it to them, like when there was discussion around potentially sending Buchnevich there at the deadline. Those are the 2 players they asked about. But is this one, Doug Armstrong being like, I'm out in like a year or 2 anyways, and Steen's replacing me? Let him retaliate. I don't give a crap. 2, this is Steen coming in and making his stamp and saying, fuck you guys for bringing in dirtbag Bowman. Or 3, this is the the scorned ex-girlfriend in Peter Chiarelli saying, yeah, go get those Edmonton Oilers. Do it.
All 3 of those are delicious as well. I love the idea of Steen coming in and being like, all right, fuck these motherfuckers. And just really like getting that started off well. I don't know, but again, I do like it's these 2 players. It's one thing when like an offer sheet gets thrown out. Like, again, we were just talking about they're usually pretty unrealistic / they're going to match. But like these are 2 such interesting players because like, again, they could be so important for Edmonton down the line. And we've seen flashes of Holloway be a really fucking good player. And those are 2 players that like, when you look at St. Louis, such good players to target. And like, there's a range of outcomes for both guys. And it's not like a crazy, like several years. It's like 2 years and like we're making it somewhat of a gamble, but if it doesn't work out at the same time, like 2 years and the cap continues to go up as well. So I love this. Like it really, like if you're Edmonton, you really, really have to like sit there and like just add this to your list of headaches with like that's going on right now. Cause like you got like Evander Kane getting surgery too. Is he going to be ready to start the season? Like Plus, again, McDavid, Draisaitl contracts. Like, it's just another headache. And I'm okay with the Edmonton Oilers suffering through several fucking headaches constantly to add to their little PR. I guess it wasn't even really a PR nightmare. I kind of think, which was shocking that it's like came and went. I feel like I haven't seen. I mean, I also again have muted so many different things on Twitter.
I blame Elon. I blame Elon. It's the algorithm.
Yes,
no one saw it.
Yeah,
dude. So other things people need to know about offer sheets, because there's a lot of chatter in our comments right now on the live stream, which love all of you that listen live and do give us your comments. But Cosgrove said, listen to the Russo show today. I guess someone is putting the idea into the universe that Wallstedt could get an offer sheet next year. I'm 90% sure Wild match almost all offers, though. A couple things that are worth noting. First, it was mentioned on the Athletic podcast from it was like Jesse Granger and Mark Lazarus that goalies would be the ideal people to target here. Throw more money than the team's necessarily comfortable doing. But again, if you're looking at them as being like a 1B, you can stomach 3 or 4 million when there's another team that's cap strapped. You got to understand the rules, though. People can't just throw offer sheets at any player they want. The player has to sign said offer sheet. I don't know that I'm worried about Jesper Wallstedt signing an offer sheet unless the Wild dick him around, right? Like, these are two players that made very reasonable asks to the Edmonton Oilers, got brushed aside, and then a team came to them and said, hey, we'll pay you double or triple what you asked for. And they're like, yeah, I'll sign that. So I'm not worried about Wallstedt at all, because I don't think he's going to go and sign an offer sheet. But it is always possible. The other thing that I didn't know, Z, maybe you did, and again, I'm obsessed with offer sheets, so I'm embarrassed that I wasn't aware of this. Apparently, whether they go to Edmonton or St. Louis, those players cannot be traded for a calendar year. And that adds a big wrinkle, because a lot of people are like, oh, why doesn't Edmonton just like match the offer and then trade them and get something? No, you have to keep a player that's signed via offer sheet, period. And there is no negotiation at this point. The exact line-by-line details of those offer sheets have to be matched to a T by Edmonton to keep them. And that's why the Sebastian Aho one, we all knew that he was going to stay in Carolina, like Z said, but the reason that it was so controversial is the Carolina owner is notoriously cheap, and the Montreal Canadiens made this thing laden in signing bonuses, a lot of the money up front at the beginning of the deal, which they're like, yeah, you want to keep him? Time to not be a cheap piece of shit. And of course, he begrudgingly signed it and then made a huge mistake going and clapping back by taking Kotkaniemi and giving him a lot of money for a lot of years. Weird, but so that's all just to say there's caveats that go into this that maybe not every listener knows, because these offer sheets never happen.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, with the, I remember with the Aho one, it was part funny, part annoying, because listen, Tom Dundon obviously in the grand scheme of things has been great for the Carolina Hurricanes. Immediately came in and made a lot of changes with the fan experience and everything like that. And obviously immediately wanted to win and everything, but it like you said, has a ton of fucking money, but was very, very, very stingy with it. But notoriously, the one time that people who are fucking billionaires who are also stingy, the one time they'll be like, oh, I'll throw fuck you money into the universe, is when you challenge them to, hey, let's see who's more rich contest. And he was like, do you want to pay $30 million in the first 3 years? And he goes, fuck yeah, I do. Fuck you. I would have given him more. And fucking then he goes out and gets Kotkaniemi the next year. So it's insane that these motherfuckers are just oh, you don't think I'm rich? Okay. It was insane. It's just, so I mean, bottom line, we need more offer sheets. We need them to be very contentious as well. I want to be. I want petty. And I just want people on their toes all the time. But this one was beautifully constructed, really well done from St. Louis. Again, any headache added to Edmonton's list of headaches, I'm all for. So I think it's really well done all around. And again, like I love the idea of both of those players in St. Louis. I mean, I don't love it because I don't like St. Louis whatsoever. But again, like two players that ideally would fit really well in St. Louis. And especially Broberg. I just want him out of Edmonton because I do think there is a really fucking good hockey player in there. And like the Edmonton Oilers are not a young defenseman who has a lot of offense in his game friendly environment. Like that's just not there. That's not the place to be.
Unless you're a unicorn like Bouchard.
Right. There's like, and he's not there. Like that's just not it. So I love this. Like, 4.5.
Now the best though. The best. Z, did you see the thumbnail that Isha made for this?
Oh, is that what he sent us?
Check the Twitter DM that he sent us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
in my head, I was like,
I brought it up to him. I'm like immediately thinking they are going to put this guy, being Broberg, on a D pairing with Ryan Suter, and we're going right back to I'm not going to the fucking corner.
Yeah.
And we have Spurgeon reborn.
Oh God, poor bastard has no idea. He has no idea. He's like, I shouldn't have fucking signed this.
Tell you what, for 4.5, he's like, that's fine. I'll go into the corner. I'll forecheck too.
Suter actually does. Suter's gonna sit down. They gave you 4.5, dude. Nice.
Like, the idea
4.5 when you ask for what?
Play poorly enough that you get bought out. You go sign with another team, and then you're double dipping.
Yeah, listen, bro. Let me tell you how this really could go well for you.
Now, first thing you have to do is sign a 13-year contract. He's like, Ryan, I can't do that. They don't let you anymore. He's like, no, 13-year contract.
He's like, you don't know the owner? You're not. Okay, well, I don't know what that's like.
Next thing you need to do, get some dirt on the owner. Yes, that's a given. Oh man, that's fun. But yes, I'm just so happy about all of the storylines with this and the fact that we got a double offer sheet, which is the way you need to do it, and that it's happening to Edmonton right on the heels of bringing in scumbag Stan Bowman. It's just phenomenal. I love it.
Beautiful. And just, I don't even know if you would consider it painful, because I think it was what a lot of, I guess, this team's fan base was hoping for. But like, because it's Toronto, any news is turmoil. Tavares, the now ex-captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, that was weird. Austin Matthews given the C from Tavares. And like, for people who do not remember how insane this 7-game series was with Boston this year in terms of just like, I mean, those fans, they kind of hit a new level of ruthlessness with how much they hated their own team. Like, and like, justifiably, they were upset with how the first 4 games went. But then they really started looking dumb for a second there. But we all knew how Game 7 was going to go. Like, that was just whatever. But Tavares was not good in the playoffs. Like, I mean, objectively, he was, like, I forgot he was on the ice. And it was like, hey, we have to trade Marner and Tavares immediately. Don't care what we get back for either guy. Like, that's how it is. And then I see a tweet from Chris Johnston earlier where it was like, or I can't remember if it was a tweet or if it was in the article that he wrote, but it was like the grace that Tavares showed, which to his credit, he was like, you couldn't have asked Tavares to be a better like sport about it. And like, cause I mean, it honestly seemed like genuinely, yeah, whatever. But it's like could lead to a longer stay in Toronto, and the fucking fans lost their minds, dude. Yeah. Which, like, again, they got what they wanted with like Matthews getting the C, but they're like, what? Might come little extension guy here for Tavares. And it's like, fuck, god damn it. So again, I think the turmoil is more just in the fan base and like whatever the media can drum up. But what a weird time it feels. I don't know why they I feel like that could have been something that they wanted to give him an extension. They could have been like, that could have been part like, hey, yeah, we'll keep you, we'll give you this, but like we want Austin to be, because Tavares has what, 1 year left on his deal right now.
Yeah.
Would you? I don't know. If to me it just seems unnecessary and weird. And like,
it tries the price down. If he's not the captain this year, the contract extension will be lower.
I guess, but like, I mean, they probably shouldn't do that in the first place. But you know, like,
well, it depends on I don't know. Like, I understand bringing him back if it's for a reasonable number. Like, what's the cap? Like, what's the max that you would pay him to come back? Forget term, just AAV.
I honestly, with how last year went and how the playoffs went, I actually have no idea. Like, I would need to actually use this year as
fair,
like because like. Even
they're going to
right now, right. But again, like, it's just, I don't really know what's going on in Toronto. Like I like even like their off season, I thought was like kind of weird. I didn't love a lot of what they did in the first place. Like with what they've got going, like their back end is so confusing to me.
I like the goaltending.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't know. They just like, I just didn't love like their offseason. I thought was very weird. Outside of like their first round pick, I didn't like their draft whatsoever. And I mean, it's so weird to me that a lot of the conversation with the Toronto Maple Leafs has been like, we hired Berube, everything is fixed. I'm like, I don't think that's how this works. But all right, sure, you can. Yeah, let's go with that. Okay.
Yeah. I don't
know.
Definitely agree with you that we got to see how this year goes for Tavares. Like, this should not be the Billy G special where they give him an extension with a no move before the season starts. But like, if he's willing to come back, assuming that like there's still tread on the tires, like 6.5 wouldn't like make me too upset.
And in my head, 6 is like the max right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. It's like you've got a guy right now in Tavares who wears the C, and just like, regardless of what his answers are, like he answers to the media every time, and like he's like, yeah, I don't know, like you guys are mean, and we did the thing again where we just like disappointed the shit out of everybody, and we didn't do anything different. And the good thing about Matthews though is that guy doesn't give a fuck, but he doesn't like scream cap. I don't know. He's their best player. I get it. Sometimes at times you want your best player to be a captain, but like, I don't know.
So here's my thought though. Like, in hockey, of all sports, who your captain is like isn't that important, because you have a locker room. There are vocal leaders. Actually, a good example that's been brought up in the past is like Brent Seabrook. Sometimes had the A, sometimes didn't even have a letter. He was the leader of that team. He was the guy in the locker room that was like the vocal leader. Everyone likes to say that it's Jonathan Toews, but like, no, Seabrook was like the guy that kept everyone on track. He didn't give a shit if he had a letter or not. And at the end of the day, Tavares will get over it and it won't be a big deal. But for me, it's just weird that they're like forcing this. Like, oh, this is going to be the thing that gets us over the hump, when like it's really not going to change much. If anything, it's just going to make things a little awkward for those guys in the room, because it's like Matthews is like, I want Tavares as a C. Give it to me now. He's not mad. He's not going to turn it away. But like, it's a weird dynamic for a guy who has come in and taken the punches from the media. He's been like a good leader. From his time in New York to his time in Toronto, he's done a great job. In most markets, this isn't a big deal. Like, look at San Jose. It went from Marlowe to Thornton to Pavelski, and like it kind of was a news story, but then it goes away. In Toronto, this is going to be the talk of everything. And it just feels like a really weird timing for them. Like, as soon as his contract ends is the easiest time to make that transition, like you said. It just feels forced, unless there's something we don't know about the situation that like warranted this. I can't imagine John Tavares has done anything to like have them like, oh, we got to change this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, and again, like, especially during the playoffs, I really enjoy tuning into Leafs media because it is like, I mean, I complain about some of the people in Boston, the media here, rightfully, because there's a couple that are just like, I mean, it's another level. But like Toronto, things are going well, and there's about like 50 people who go post game and they're like, let me find something to fuck this guy's day up with. But
there's more than 50. Like, there's more than 50.
yeah. But it's so I know like the idea of Tavares not having the C anywhere has been a thing. Like, I mean, during the playoffs, it was crazy. Like, that was one of the first topics of conversation everywhere in that, which was, again, just so weird. But one of the big knocks on him as a captain, and again, realistically, it's only funny to me because it's Toronto, like you said. Like, that's literally the only reason I even like give this more than 5 seconds of thought. But like, one of the knocks on Tavares is like, hey, this is like the locker room seems super cliquey apparently, and like when they need a boost, like Tavares isn't like the rah fucking, hey, no, we don't do that here, whatever guy. Like he's just like a really good fucking hockey player who's older than everybody. Like it was like, I don't know. That was like one of the big knocks. And again, like one of the reasons that was very cliquey is like it was Mitch and Austin and Willie hanging out and Morgan Riley. And it was like just groups of players. So it's like, it's weird. Again, like this is just weird in my head. But not again, weird. Like the number one thing is it doesn't feel like it had to happen right now, but maybe they want to do it with Berube coming in. I have no idea. I honestly think like, I doubt Tavares is like really, I don't think Tavares really even like, I think he's like, okay.
He cares. He'll never say anything. He cares.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a little like side funny piece of this is that they literally stripped the like local boy who wore Maple Leafs pajamas to bed every night, made the best American hockey player their captain right before we finally get national competition back. Love it. Love that aspect. And I wonder, and I didn't even think about this until now, but have you ever done like fantasy football or fantasy anything on like DraftKings? There's this thing you can do. I don't do much of it, but
the boost.
Well, you make someone your captain.
Yeah, it's like 1.5 times salary.
Yeah, 1.5 times the salary, but like 1.5 times the points as well. And it's like, do they think that like this is just going to get Austin Matthews 100 goals this year, or like is that like their motivation? They're like, hey guys, don't know if you heard of this thing they got in the States called DraftKings. I think they're on to something here.
Yeah, well, don't tell them where HQ is then. You know, they don't want to know where DraftKings HQ is.
Ooh, no, they don't. No, they don't. That would be bad.
I know. It's right down the street from me. Yeah.
Oh, that's a little scary. But yeah, that's a weird situation altogether. But how can we make this about the Minnesota Wild? I gotta imagine there's already people out there being like, yeah, Toronto got it right. We need to get that C off of Spurgeon and slap it right on Brock Faber. Or we need to throw it right on Kaprizov because then he can't leave.
Legally can't. What
if Kaprizov's demand was, I'll stay under 2 conditions. Number 1, I'm captain. Number 2, we get rid of that nonsense C patch and I get a K.
Oh my God, that would actually be.
Do the Wild immediately do it? They have to, right? The league comes to them like, you can't just put a K. They're like, we did. I don't know what to tell you.
Or he's like,
do you want Kirill to defect to the KHL?
Yeah.
Don't think so.
Or his demand is 1, I am captain. 2, Zuki is also captain. Both captain. 2 captains.
We are the captains now.
All right. Okay. Well, all right, Kirill. Well, and like to what you said too, like the conversation here for a long time was like, yeah, Spurgeon has a C. Everyone loves Spurgeon. but like the vocal leader in that room has always been Marcus Foligno.
Right.
And like he was very much a guy that, like they were looking at, or well, that was the speculation at least. Like Russo was floating it out there. Like, yeah, like in terms of who the next captain is, between like guys like Spurgeon, Foligno,
David Spacek.
And there's like David, soon to be David Spacek, best prospect in the world. But I'm telling you, in Boston, dude, I mean, even when at the tail end of Chara's career in Boston, even when he was still a good fucking hockey player, these dickheads, I almost use a really bad word. These dickheads down the street at the sports hub, two of my least favorite fucking sports media people on the planet, they actually peddled this horse shit into the world that the Bruins would have won more Stanley Cups if Patrice Bergeron had the C like 4 years earlier than he got it. And it was mind-numbing to the point where like it was every 3 Bruins fan tweets replying to the team on Twitter. Like it was like one person was like, I love the Bruins. And then it was Tuukka Rask sucks. And then it was tell Chara to rip that C off his sweater and give it to Bergie. And it was unbelievable. And like it was an actual conversation almost every fucking day for like 4 or 5 years. And I mean, it was unbelievable.
I can't believe it took you this long to bring it up. I thought you were going to bring that up 2 minutes into this topic. So
I was trying not to. I eventually I couldn't. I'm going to bring it up 11 more times before this episode ends.
That's pretty great. Dude, how about this though? Yeah. Jordan throws in Elise Kaprizov gets to play in Norway with Zuki. Dude, he's for sure getting detained and he's not coming back.
Did you see Russo's tweet about how he had to get there?
No, what did he do?
Okay, so like there was a Russo translated the story. So this is how he's getting there. So Kirill Kaprizov can't simply fly into Norway without a special permit. Weird, we've never dealt with that one before. Due to Russia's invasion into Ukraine, after much work behind the scenes, listen to this. Kaprizov will fly from Moscow to Istanbul to Gothenburg and then helicopter to Lillehammer, Norway, that's how much he loves this guy. That is unfucking believable. That is how he has to just get to Norway for this fucking game. It's amazing. It's incredible.
I don't. I love that he's supporting his teammate. I'm not on board with this. Wait. Hang on. Spin zone. He can't get back into the U.S. Can't play this season. We punt the contract issue 1 year down the road.
Fair enough.
If he doesn't come back to the States, we don't take a year off of his deal, do we?
Yeah,
I like that. It gives us 1 more year to prove to him what we can do, and we're going to get young kids into the lineup, and we're going to get a better draft pick because of it. It's all coming together. Billy put him up to it.
I don't know why my immediate reaction was from Step Brothers. Just like, we have literally never done any of those things.
Make our own beef jerky.
We talk about shit with the door open.
She's had the old
gambling tricks.
Now she wants the young calf.
Shut the fuck up. All right, moving on.
Yeah, that was fun. Okay, that is NHL talk for the week. Prospects. We got some things to talk about. And I'm going to be honest, I tried and I legitimately missed most of the Hlinka competition. I watched like 2 periods of 2 games. I'm very sad about it. So why don't you tell me and the listeners what the hell happened?
Yep. And naturally, this feels like the right time for my internet to really start shitting the bed. So, we'll see how long this lasts. But again, as I said before, the Hlinka Gretzky, for anyone that likes to track the NHL draft, this is the tournament essentially that kicks off the draft year for this year's 2025 eligibles. And there's always a couple of 2026 or draft -1 guys. For Canada, they had Gavin McKenna. Sweden, they had a couple. They had Bjork. And then Czechia had a kid, Novotny, who was excellent. But once again, I mean, the heavy favorite every year is always Canada. They did win again in a really good game against Czechia, the gold medal game. I think they've won like 26 or 27 of 30 something Hlinka Gretzky tournaments. A big part of that is the USA does not bring like their USN TDP guys. So it's always like kind of like their version of a B team. It's always interesting though. There's always a couple of guys that play really well that end up elevating their stock early and kind of like stay on a roll. Like a big guy last year was Trevor Connolly. Like he was always pretty highly thought of. Probably was more of like maybe like a fringe first round guy. Really played well for USA at that tournament last year. And obviously then ripped apart the USHL, goes to Vegas in the first round this year. Probably would have gone higher if not for the past off ice stuff. But again, this is always a very fun tournament to watch. It really does suck that this thing with Russia continues to go on, because that is a team that is also very much in the running every year to win gold. The last year that they won, or they were in this tournament, I think they lost in the gold medal game, or they won actually. I can't even remember, but it feels like it was so fucking long ago. But again, Canada really ran the table. But couple noteworthy things. Adam Banach of Czechia, last year he ripped apart the Hlinka as a draft -1. This year he did it again. He was his second in points this year, but he is now the all-time leader in points at the Hlinka. So he finished with 11 in 5 games. He is going to be a big storyline all year long leading into this draft. Again, he played a good amount of pro hockey as a draft -2 or draft -1 last year. After ripping, I mean, every international tournament that he's been in, he's easily Czechia's best player. The thing with him is he is a play driving center, but he's like, I think he's 5'8". So there's always going to be those questions. And like there's been a handful of players the past few years who have been drafted in the first round that are like forwards at his height. The thing with him, though, is I do firmly believe that he will be a first-round pick. This kid is fucking unbelievable. Like, just a pure north-south, like, not necessarily, like, he can't really be, obviously, with his size, like a power forward, but, like, he is fearless. And his hands in and around the net, like, are, at this tournament, they were unmatched. Like, he was easily a top 5 player at this tournament, despite his size. Again, was the main reason that Czechia made it to the gold medal game again. But he is going to be very interesting to just track throughout his draft year, just given the size, because in terms of raw talent, he's probably a top 20 guy. But I mean, when you're that small and you're a center, the size concerns are actually legit. And it's going to be a big question whether or not he can be as effective at the wing. Again, like he was easily one of the tournament's like best play drivers, and the reason that Czechia makes it as far as they do. So whether or not he can do that at the wing, that's probably going to be a pretty big determinant where he goes in the draft. But I do think with how well he's played at both of the Hlinkas that he's been in, how well he played last year playing pro fucking hockey at his size and his age, I think he is very legit, and he's absolutely a first round pick. We'll see if NHL scouts agree. But let me just pull up I had a sheet here of some standout guys.
I'll ask you one quick. Yeah. How good is this McKenna kid?
Yeah. So right now he's very much projected as the first overall in 2026. He was one of Canada's best players at the U18 Worlds this year. And it's funny when
they're 16 now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's 16. He ripped apart the WHL last year as a draft -2. Like, and I mean, ripped it apart. playing for Medicine Hat again, like right alongside guys like Andrew Bash, like Caden Lindstrom. Like that team was just so much fun to watch. He is unbelievable. Like the hands, the playmaking, the two-way play. He can score goals himself. He drove a ton of play despite like the point totals. I mean, he was over a point per game here, but like didn't necessarily like you would have probably expected him at least like around 2 points per game. Despite the fact he's a draft -1, he just has some of the highest draft pedigree of any player at this tournament. But he was, despite only putting up 6 points in 5 games, he was fucking incredible. Like, especially the gold medal game, like that game was awesome. Very back and forth, but he had the puck. Anytime he was on the ice, it was him with the puck, driving play through the neutral zone in the offensive zone. Like, you cannot take it off of him. He is a prick to play against too. He's so much fun to watch. And like, I mean, Czechia was target. They were trying to kill him every time he stepped over the boards, and they just could not do it. He is awesome. So at this point, obviously, it could not be more. Well, it really couldn't be more early, but he is right now probably the guy that's going to be looked at as the first overall in 2026. And I think this year early. He might do some.
He played in the WHL 15-year-old.
I knew you were like, oh, technically that could be more early.
Well, no, but like actually, like he jumped into the WHL. Not only did he get exceptional status to play last year, but he played at the tail end of the year prior.
Yeah,
when he was like freshly 15 years old and only put up 18 points in 16 games. Like, holy shit.
No, he is. There is no doubt what he is about to do with the WHL this year is going to be terrifying. Like, he is fucking unbelievable. But one of the other things that I don't really know why I didn't put more thought into this when we did like the way too early top 16 for 2025. I think if like you were to like kind of pull any scouts at this tournament, player of the tournament probably would have been Matthew Schaefer. And I think he's putting himself in the conversation to be like second overall. I think he is at this point.
What?
Even given some of like the top D-men in this draft class here, he is like at least one level up of every other defenseman. His ability to control play from the back end, and at this tournament, you saw him willing to just activate a little bit more often than we've typically seen from him. And the fact that he is 11 days shy of being 2026 eligible with how good he already is insane. He is without a doubt a future top pair D-man. I mean, there's a reason he was first overall in the OHL draft a couple of years ago. And he was excellent last year in the O. The sky is the limit for him. There's even more untapped offense in there, but his defending, his mobility, this kid is fucking incredible. He was by far the best defenseman at this tournament and may have been the best player. He is incredible. Like, big fan. He was already my first D-man off the board, but like he absolutely, like, I don't really see him slowing down throughout this year. I don't really see anyone else challenging him as far as like the back end goes to be the first guy off the board. And I would not be shocked if he ends up being 2 or 3. Like, that's how fucking good this kid is. And this is one where it's like, sometimes you roll your eyes where it's like, we took this kid because he was almost like the year before he could have been whatever, like 11 days shy of being eligible for the draft last year. This is one where it's like, oh, this actually changes that conversation legit. Like, he is almost 2026 eligible. Like, he's that fun, and he's this good. But like he really doesn't have any glaring weaknesses at all. Like, he plays like a pro.
But still, the way you talked about in our way too early 2025 rankings, you really think he could be the second overall pick?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Did you like that Scott Wheeler and his 2025 first round projections way too early as well had Anton Frundell at number 2 over?
I always love that.
The Canadian.
I always love that. And again, just love that this crop of Swedes this year is, I mean, like, there's not a adjective to describe how much better this class is than last year. Like, it's not even on the same field. Oh my God. Yeah. But again, like when you look at both of those guys, I still see a world where you can absolutely talk yourself into, and I don't even think you would need to really, like, they're at this point with their ceilings, like they're pretty much on the same playing field. Like Schaefer is already a guy that just like looks like a kid that's going to go right to the NHL and play like 28 minutes a night. Like he's fucking unbelievable. Like this, like I think the sky is the limit for him. So he was excellent for Team Canada. They, as it usually goes, they did not give up many goals in this tournament. But that being said, it wasn't due to them like not facing any pressure whatsoever. The goaltender there, Jack Ivankovic, I found that you say it differently than I thought you did. He was fucking incredible. He gave up 3 goals on like 72 shots. So he had like a .75 goals or goals against and a 960 or 976, I think, save percentage, which is unbelievable. But in the semifinal, or not the semifinals, in the final again, or no, when the fuck did they play Sweden? That might have been the final group stage game, which was also just an incredible hockey game. He made some outrageous saves to keep them in front, prevent Sweden from coming back and tying things up. And then again, that's going to be an interesting guy to watch too, in terms of where he gets drafted, because the big knock on him is he's a goaltender that's 5'11". So that's always going to be a big question mark. But what he showed at this tournament, if he can just continue on with Mississauga next year, I think he's got a chance to go. I mean, I'm not going to say first round, obviously, but like pretty high as far as the goalies go in this draft. But he was excellent at this tournament for Canada. And then a couple other standouts. Cole Reshney, who we profiled somewhat the tail end of the lottery picks. He was Canada's leading scorer, along with Emile Guité, who just missed out on our top 16. I think he solidified himself. If you were to draft right now, he's probably a top 20 guy. Can give you a little bit of everything, and he's got the size and the two-way play. But he was excellent this tournament for Canada as well. And those were the standouts there. Sweden was interesting. They had one line of Otto Stenberg's brother, Ivar Stenberg, who's a 2026 eligible. He finished 3rd in the tournament in scoring, alongside Milton Gastrine and Victor Klingzel. Klingzel finished 1st in this tournament for scoring with 12 in 5 games, and then both Gastrine and Stenberg had 10. They were a dominant line. Like, every time they stepped over the boards, they were fucking incredible. Big disappointment was a guy that we had as high as, I think we put East Wozniak at 5 or 6. He was, I mean, there's no other way to say it. He was just bad at he was not noticeable whatsoever. And then another guy on Sweden's back end that we had pretty high in our initial like lottery top 16 or whatever preseason. Sasha, Bumedieni, however you say it. He was also a complete non-factor.
Trouble.
Yeah, he was another complete non-factor for Sweden. Like, those are 2 guys that when you look at Team Sweden, if they were going to finish right at the top of their group stage, or like right behind Canada, and then make a run, and they ended up just getting the shit kicked. But like when they scored a ton of goals in this tournament, you would have thought that both of those guys would have been very high in the list of scorers. Sasha Bumedieni did not put up a single point. Wozniak finished with 4 goals. 2 of them came in like a 12-1 blowout to Switzerland, as well as the 5-1 win in the bronze medal game against USA. Like, again, just a complete non-factor, which was pretty shocking given the fact that like he couldn't even get there to like forecheck. Like he was pretty much just in the neutral zone doing flybys. Like, he was a non-factor. And again, like when you look at how many goals that Team Sweden scored this tournament, you would have thought that he would have been right at the top of the list of scorers. And he was not. So that was interesting. But again, Stenberg really played incredibly well. Again, another 2026 eligible, along with the Bjork kid. He was really good for Sweden as a 2026 guy. But Klingzel is really interesting. He's definitely a first-round guy, probably tail end of the first. Got good size. He can be a pretty decent enough playmaker, but he's also a sniper. Milton Gastrine's fascinating. Another guy that's probably a first-round pick. Just really fun playmaker. And then I forget the fucking kid's first name, but we have a all name team possibility. Oh, I gotta pull up his actual name. God damn it. It's gonna drive me nuts. On the back end for Team Sweden. Oh yeah, Malte Voss, a big left shot D man. He was awesome for Sweden. 6'2", 180. He was an absolute fucking hammer. Like, he was crushing guys, and he put up a couple points. So I really liked his game. And yeah, no, another guy that I thought would have a lot more love coming into the draft year that played really well, but like pretty much stayed in Sweden's bottom six this whole tournament. Philip Ekberg. He plays for Almtuna. I think he's coming to the USHL though. Or is he coming to the CH? I can't remember. But he was a kid that as a 15-year-old or 16-year-old got he played his first ever Allsvenskan game with Almtuna last year. And first game, he scored 4 goals. As like a 16-year-old. Like, he is incredible. Played most of the J20 this year, put up a ton of points. Ripped apart when he was in the J18 in Sweden. He's another guy that I would probably put in my first round, but it seems like he's either the tail end or he's in a lot of people's second round. I think he's such a good all-around player. Like, he's a winger that really can drive offense. Was hoping to see him get more top 6 love, but he did not. But he's definitely another guy to at least keep your eyes on in this draft season. And where's my list?
Yeah, anything else we missed there? Before we tackle the projected World Juniors rosters.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. I did want to bring up... I got to remember how to actually say his name. A guy for Czechia who finished, I think, top 5 or top 6 in scoring that was really good alongside Banach. Oh, yeah. God damn it. Vit Sejewski. He is a bit of a pivot forward. He can play center. He can also play right wing. A bit on the undersized side, but like dynamic playmaker. He also scored a couple goals. He was really good at this tournament. Big reason that they made it to the gold medal game as well. So he's definitely a guy to keep your eye on, potential first round pick there. So again, I love this tournament. It's so fun. Again, like you, because it was a lot of the games are during the day, didn't really get to catch as much as I would have liked to live, but went back and watched pretty much all the games after the fact. It is a very fun tournament. Really do wish that we got to see Russia here because they have another guy that looks like a top 5 pick in Ryabkin, who is legit. Super, super high end potential there. So it sucks that we did not get to see him.
Never heard that story before.
Mm-hmm. And then I just wanted to bring up 2 guys, at least for USA, that really played well. Of course, my fucking internet sucks ass. Oh, yeah. Blake Fiddler. He was captain for USA this year. 6'5", 210-pound right shot D-man. I think there's a ton of upside in a kid like him. Super physical. I think there's more offense in there than he's shown in the past, assuming he gets some good coaching. Again, there's a ton of upside there. I know a lot of scouts had a lot of good things to say about him after this tournament. And then Matthew Lansing was excellent for them. Finished top scorer for USA. I think he finished with like 7 or 8 points in 5 games. And again, it's always tough for USA this tournament because they don't bring their really top guys, the NTDP guys. But he was really, really good for USA. There you go.
Awesome. All right, that's Hlinka. I'll pull up here one by one. You tell me if there's any order you want to go in particular. But what we have here are the projected lineups for the, we'll call it the top 4 nations. Ones we represented at the 4 Nations tournament. Except that's not junior players. Forget I said that. But Wheeler, Pronman, and Boltman threw this together for the Athletic. Canada, USA, Sweden, and Finland. Any preference on where we start here, Z? All right, we're going to
Whatever
start.
order you have those up.
Yeah, I can pull them up in any order, but we'll start with the oh so important Canadians.
Yeah.
So here we have it. We can, I guess I'll read them off rapid fire here. First line, and we'll go left wing, center, right wing for all of these. So we've got aforementioned Gavin McKenna, draft crush of Z's, Berkeley Catton, my new favorite Gopher edition, Matthew Wood. Second line's Easton Cowan, Callum Ritchie, Bradley Nadeau. Third line, Carson Rakoff, Braden Yeager, who should be much higher on this list, being a Penguin, and Beckett Seneke. And then fourth line, Denver Barkey, that's Jet Luchenko and Caden Lindstrom. Blue line is Tanner Molendyk and Oliver Bonk. Second pair is Sawyer Minyo. I'm not sure. I actually have never heard of this player, but he's a Canucks prospect, so I'm sure Isha has no idea how to pronounce it. Zane Parekh. Last pairing, Sam Dickinson, Carter Yakimchuk. Goalies, Scott Ratzlaff, Carter George. They have extras listed here, but I'm sure Wild fans are very aware of one player that's missing from this group. Z, care to weigh in on that?
Yeah, listed as an extra, Riley Heidt. So it's always tough to gauge because, especially with Team Canada, it felt like this a couple of years ago for sure. Actually, no, last year for sure. There are certain tournaments, certain World Juniors tournaments where it feels like they really kind of galaxy brain it and they try to just build the most like NHL-esque roster. And a lot of that means that some top guys who probably are some of the better players in this age group in Canada, like, get left off, and Riley Heidt obviously fits that mold. I guess I can kind of understand some of it. But he should have been on that roster last year. He literally only improved as the year went on. And I still think he probably, and again, like, this is just like a projection. So like we have several months. And I mean, I guess a lot of it depends how, like, what this first couple of months looks like for Riley Heidt as well. It seems like a fucking big swing and a miss. And I mean, I look at that second line and I actually do understand, like, Easton Cowan getting in because he was one of the best players in the OHL, if not the best player in the OHL last year. Only continue that in the playoffs. The one that's interesting to me is a guy like Bradley Nadeau, who is just a pure raw sniper. I mean, I think you can probably get that and a little bit more with a guy like Riley Heidt. And then, you know, after that, you can kind of understand why they wouldn't want to put a guy like Riley Heidt maybe in their bottom six, because you're probably just not getting what he does best down there. And they try to build it more like an NHL roster, and try to balance it. So I can understand, like, the bottom six selections there. But again, I just look at it. I don't know how you don't end up putting Riley Heidt on this team. We'll see. And I mean, who knows? Maybe Heidt makes the Wild out of camp and they don't even want to send him anyways. So that would be probably, I guess, best case if he's going to be off this roster. But I just look at it and, like, I don't know how you don't put Riley Heidt here. It's crazy to me.
Do you think that age is a factor? Like, do you think if he was a year younger doing what he's doing, he would be much more likely to be in?
I mean, it's possible, but I mean, he's the same age as, like, a kid. Like, I mean, he got in the same draft as Cowan, Ritchie, Nadeau. Like, he's the same age as a lot of these guys.
I'm not saying that he's not. I'm saying, is that a reason that a younger guy is maybe getting in over him? Like, okay, straight up, who should be in, him or Beckett Seneke? Pure talent.
You'd probably throw Seneke there.
Yeah. So not relevant then. Oh no, my point was, like, there's some guys here that are more recent draftees, and maybe they want to get them in because they want to have some repeat guys to throw in as veterans and future World Juniors, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that probably, that makes sense to me. And again, like if you're throwing Riley Heidt in there, he's going to be in your top 6. He's going to be one of your go-to offensive guys. So again, that's where I just kind of question. I mean, the one that, again, the big standout for me is having a guy like Bradley Nadeau there over Riley Heidt. So
yeah, that one feels weird.
Mm-hmm. But maybe they wanted that pure sniper there.
Jaeger needs to be higher up the lineup. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, there you go. First line.
No, I'll let Berkeley Catton have that one.
Beautiful.
It's that Callum.
What a hockey player. What a hockey player, Berkeley Catton. One guy that's not listed here that when I look at it, sometime that I could go back and forth. I'm surprised like Ben Danford isn't in the mix here, the Toronto Maple Leafs first round pick. Big right shot D-man, really good two-way, solid defender that can give you some offense too. And we talked about it at the start of this, where they tend to really try to build this like they're building an NHL team. I still would have probably had Ben Danford in here. I mean, you look at like I get that these NHL teams like love a kid like Oliver Bonk. I would have probably had Ben Danford there. And like to me, with Melendek, the mobility, and Danford's like defensive ability, I think that would be. I mean, I don't even know if they actually like put these constructed these lines like this intentionally or whatever. But
I gotta imagine
Ben Danford seems like probably. And the Sawyer Minio kid, he plays with Parekh in Saginaw, so that probably weighs in there, I guess. But. Yeah. But Ben Danford does seem like a interesting player to leave off this team. So, but a couple of big omissions up front, like Tij Iginla, Andrew Cristall, Tanner Howe. Like Tanner Howe would have been a really good bottom 6 option too. But again, I actually like Canada's bottom 6 here. Like I love those. That's a fucking phenomenal group of players. So I can understand that too. But again, the big guys that really stand out that are not listed here would be Riley Heidt as listed as the extra, but then Ben Danford, a really solid defenseman. So interesting.
Very fair. Next one we'll pull up here is the favorites going into the tournament. The Americans. Again, we'll go left wing, center, right wing. First line, which is I'm sure you'll talk about this plenty. Almost Wild, Gabe Perreault, James Haggins, Ryan Leonard. Goddamn BC. We'll call it nepotism. Second line, Cole Yzerman, Oliver Moore, Trevor Connolly. Third line, Quentin Musty, Danny Nelson, Brody Zemmer. Another Gopher. Here we go. Fourth line, we've got a Bulldog, Max Plant, Carey Terrence, Noah Powell. On defense, we've got Zeev Buyam. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of him. And Drew Fortescue. Also note that the Canadian roster, all the guys that went before him in the draft are on the second or third pairing. Zeev Buyam, clearly superior. Second pairing, Cole Hudson, EJ Emery. Third pairing, Paul Fisher, Aram Manishin. That sounds very American. Goalies, Trey Augustine, shocker, and Minnesota boy, Hampton Sluchinski. Extras, Brandon Svoboda, Zach Schultz, Nicholas Kempf. This is a fun roster. Of course, the only undrafted is the first line center, James Haggins, who, why wouldn't we just exclusively play BC guys together?
Yeah, I mean, it's by law. You have to. I mean, what a fun fucking team. Like, The one thing that you could see
line could be so fun.
Right. So the thing is, when you look at the forward group, there is insane potential for offense. There is a world where, despite all that talent, you could see a scenario where, just given like the profile of some of these guys, if all of their troubles hit at once, you actually could still see them like needing help in the scoring department. Like guys like Yzerman, Connolly, and Musty especially, their talent level and just like the point production and the potential is insane. There are more than enough games where they leave you wanting so much more, or they try to do something a little bit extra.
That's why they got him centering.
Yeah. Well, then, like, Oliver Moore is just so fucking... And I was actually listening to Chris Peters talk earlier, and he's like, somehow Moore has gotten, like, bigger and faster. The faster thing is scary. I don't know how he did that, but he's managed to, like, add a level of speed where it's like, how the fuck did he do that? But he's just such a reliable player. And the big thing with him, if he is going to just somehow continue, like, to get faster, as long as those hands can keep up with the feet, like... that is a player with just like terrifying upside. But probably a guy that you're still like wanting to like consistently put it all together, game in, game out. I absolutely believe that he will, and he is going to be an incredible player this year in college hockey and in the NHL in the future. But there is a world where like you look at that middle six and they might just like, I don't think they'll struggle for goals, especially at this tournament. But like when you look at some of like, Trevor Connolly is obviously incredible in terms of raw talent in the 2024 draft, probably a top 5 guy. But the decision-making is very, very hit or miss with him, to the, like, not just trying to do everything himself, but like the discipline. I mean, he like is a big reason that the USA did not win gold, the U18s, after he got ejected and Canada scored twice in that 5-minute power play. But again, another guy just in terms of like the raw hockey, like he can go on a lot of solo missions, more than good enough to convert a lot of the times. But plenty of times that he'll leave you a little bit frustrated, where if it doesn't work out, he's really putting you in a shitty position. Cole Yzerman is just, I mean, best goal scorer in the draft. Outside of that, there's a lot that he leaves on the table that you're asking for. And Oliver Moore, I'm sure, is probably going to be setting those guys up left and right. And it's just whether or not they're going to convert. This is me searching for a bad thing to say about like this fucking forward group, because it is so much fun. The Musty Nelson Zemer line combo is fascinating to me, where it's like Danny Nelson is a big, mean, like a little bit of everything center, more so on just like the meat and potatoes like area of the game. And then like Quentin Muskie is big, kind of like Connolly. The decision making can be hit or miss, especially with the discipline, but raw talent, he is one of the best players in his age group. Ton, like endless upside with him. And Zemer's, again, just a pretty reliable all-around guy that gives you flashes of legit offense. So when I look at the forward group, it's like, yeah, if they all put it together at the right time, they're going to score a fucking million goals. You could also see the world where it's just like if things are going right in the first period, they get frustrated, decision making's hit or miss, or there's just like you're searching for them to put it together as a line, like all three of those all three lines, like the top 9 there. So it's interesting. The back end, my God. The idea of EJ Emery and Cole Hudson playing a D pair is fucking hilarious. Because EJ Emery, like, notoriously 0 goals this year in the program. I think like 10 points, 6'5", me, physical, one of the most athletic human beings on the face of the earth, excellent defender. Cole Hudson, if he really wanted to, could probably give you like 5 points a game. Like he's just like, he plays cocaine hockey from the back end, and it's so fun to watch. So the two of them together is fascinating to me. I love that. And then Paul Fisher and Aaron Minetnian, or Minetian, however you're supposed to say it, I don't know. Just like no nonsense, not flashy whatsoever, but super fucking reliable. And can probably just give you a lot of the minutes that you don't want that your top 4 D-men to play, despite the fact that EJ Emery absolutely could easily do the same thing. But then Zeev Buium is going to be playing probably 27 minutes a night. Like, he was unbelievable last year at the World Juniors as a draft eligible. Started like probably on their bottom pair and really elevated his role as the tournament went on. I think he finished the best plus minus. I mean, you can use plus minus as a stat for whatever you want. But like the fact that he, I think, was like plus 11 by the end of the tournament, and he led the tournament in that stat. I mean, again, this is a kid that's already pretty much done everything you could possibly ask a prospect to do at his age, and he's only going to get better, which is terrifying. So I would expect him to be one of their go-to guys, not just defensive-wise, but like also he's going to be able to chip in offensively. That's another like thing that you look at the back end too. It's like outside of Buium and Hudson, those are pretty much the only guys that you're going to like be depending on, like chipping in offensive in the back end. But when you look at the raw talent of those forwards, as long as like everything goes well, you shouldn't need to rely on them too much. But again, if you want to look at like areas of like, if you're trying to find some areas of concern when you look at the roster, it's like you could see a world where like somehow, despite all that talent, they could somehow be searching for goals. But I don't think that's going to happen. It's a fun group.
Is the age cutoff for this being 20 before the tournament starts or being 20 before January 1st?
That's a great question. I think it's January 1st.
That's unfortunate for the young one. 3 days early. But
I can't remember that.
Help me out in taxes, so I'm still taking it. Big win. All right. Team USA. There we have it. Now we will pull up Z's adopted country. If you just give me 1 second here. Boom. We have the Swedes. And I don't know. You tell me, Z, because I go back and forth on this. Obviously, the way we talked about him, and I'm removing the fact that his name is incredible. I still go back and forth on whether I want Axel Sandin, Pelika, whatever it is, versus Braden Yeager. Who should I prefer to have in the Penguin system?
Ooh.
Don't even worry about organizational need. Which player in a vacuum would you rather have in your system?
I think I feel better about the likelihood of Yeager hitting.
Okay. Then I'll feel good.
Yeah, because if ASP doesn't fully hit his upside, like there's a world where he looks like a Niels Lundqvist because of a very, very similar profile. So okay. I guess.
Fair. We can move on from that then. Z, we're going to do this one line by line, pairing by pairing, because this is your bread and butter. This is your Swedes. And I know this first pairing, you're going to interrupt me anyways. So I might as well just stop right away and let you talk. So we'll go left wing, center, right wing, like we've been doing so far. First line, Otto Stenberg, David Edstrom. Z, who's that third guy? I've never heard of him.
It's the greatest player in hockey history, Felix Ungersorum. Shocking. Taken by the fucking Carolina Hurricanes. Shocking. Fucking shocking. God damn it.
It is a little, hang on. It is a little shocking because he's not Russian.
It's a good point. I mean, first of all, this projection, this team is just, I love it. I love this fucking team. But that first line with Stenberg, Edstrom, and Sorum, they have pretty much the last 2 years, every international tournament that Sweden's played in, this has been their best line, their go-to line. They played together a lot. And it like Stenberg was such an interesting player in his draft year because coming in, like especially after the Hlinka that year, he was looked at as like a top probably 10 player. And then for whatever reason, like in the it remained this way throughout the whole season. His play at the club level was like the definition of leaving you wanting more. Like, it was just not the same guy. But when he would go to play for Sweden, every fucking game, he was easily the best player on the ice. Like it was a different player altogether. But that trio, they can affect every single area of the game. You've got a guy like Stenberg, who is an absolute bulldog. The offense, like he's capable of making some just silly plays, and his playmaking, he can score goals. Defensively, he is excellent. David Edstrom really popped off his draft year, which is why he went in the first round to Vegas, and I guess he got traded though. So to say
no, that never happens.
Yeah, no, they like Vegas was like, God damn it, I really wish this guy sucked so we could but we have to trade him. We have to trade him.
He was a second rounder. I wish he was a second rounder.
God, that's what they told him on the phone. Like, sorry, buddy. Like, if you're right. We should have waited. But Edstrom is such a good two-way forward. He's a big boy. He's super physical, excellent defender. Not like the fastest guy in the world, but like not quite in the same level of like a Kumpalainen, but like sometimes he just like transitions a puck from his own end into the offensive zone. You're like, how the fuck did no one take it? Like, it's crazy. He's like, despite not having the best foot speed in the world, excellent in transition, and just the definition of like, he's not necessarily driving the offense on that line, but he is a critical component to it, where like one of the best complementary centers at the junior level I've seen in a very long time. And he's got a really good shot. He tends to be the finisher on that line. And then Felix Unger-Storm is the best player that's ever lived. But the transition game and his east-west ability, the playmaking and like the passes that he makes, like cross ice, it's a joke. And he really went off after getting drafted. Like last year, he was fucking excellent. And again, like for Sweden, he tends to be right at the top of their, like, in terms of the point production, he's right at the top there. But this line is one of the best junior lines the past few years. And I don't expect them to do anything differently. But it's such a well put together top unit. Like, they're going to get a ton of minutes. Again, the fact that you can rely on them in all three zones, and they all bring a little bit something different to the table. It's one of the best lines of this tournament. Like, they are so fun. And they've been effective for 2 years. 3 years.
No, I'd like to lead this by firmly establishing I am not racist.
Okay. All right. That's always good. Whatever's coming next is always not a problem.
Now that that's off the table, it's a little concerning to me that there's two brunettes on the first line of Team Sweden. That's all.
Yeah. People, it's something to think about.
All right, moving on to the second line. You're relieved at least, right? That was a lot less damaging than you expected.
could have been significantly worse.
Second line, we've got Anton Wahlberg, Anton Frundell, Felix Nilsson. I'm a little sad that we're just going to call him Anton Nilsson moving forward to make this work.
It's like Rick.
Go off. Oh, don't you even get me started on Rick. I love that boy.
Yeah, another super fun trio here. So Anton Wahlberg was anyone that was tracking like that 2023 draft, anyone that was tracking like the Swedish players, he became a favorite of pretty much everybody. He's big, he's mean, he's got some insane hands, he's got a really good shot. Defensively, he at least puts in the effort, and there's enough of a foundation there that he can be a really good two-way guy. But the offensive upside, as long as he's not like the guy that you're looking to for primary offense, he is a nightmare for the opposition. Like you deal with that first line for Sweden, then you have Frondell, Wahlberg, and Nilsson jumping over the boards. That sucks. So with this line, though, it's like just a nightmare matchup where it's, again, just really well balanced. You've got Wahlberg, who gives you a little bit of everything, and the fact that, like, if he hits you, it's going to hurt a lot. He is a nightmare on the forecheck. Anton Frondell, he's going to be a guy that's going to be challenging for first, second, third overall this year. Hopefully he recovers from this injury because it's kept him out of the last few international tournaments, but ridiculous upside. the playmaking ability, the goal scoring ability. And like when he went and played a couple of games, the Allsvenskan this year, he was played in a 4th line role, and he was an absolute animal on the forecheck too. Another guy with he's not huge, but I think he's like 6'1" or so. And he's like 180, 190, but knows how to use that size. Again, a big knock on those guys that have been like he's been 6'1" for like 5 years, which a lot of times it's like when you look at guys like that put up 1 million points against guys their own age, it's like, okay, well, this kid's just kind of been a man amongst boys forever. Everyone caught up, and he just continued to only get better and like ripped apart the J20 last couple of years. Excellent all-around player, so fun to watch. Again, he is going to be a guy that's challenging for right around that. Again, I think Hagens is just at this point still probably at another level, but Frondel's right there. Again, like you said, Wheeler has him 2nd overall this year so far. But insane upside. Again, this injury is going to be interesting to see how well he comes back from it, because he's missed a good chunk of time now. And like, I don't think he was expected to miss the Hlinka. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Felix Nelson is fucking awesome. Such a good all-around player. He's rotated back and forth.
Anton Nelson?
Sorry. Anton Felix Nelson. AFN, as they call him.
That is great. Yeah.
FAN. Fan. The fan. Unfortunately, he's in Nashville.
Felix Anton Nelson. I can work with it. I'm in.
Yeah. He's been incredible for Rogla at the junior level. Interesting to see him at the wing, because he's been such a reliable two-way center pretty much his whole junior career. He's got an absolute snipe of a shot, but his like bread and butter is just the handling, the playmaking ability, and like how good he is in the forecheck. So I look at that line, and that's terrifying, because you've got insane offensive potential, but all 3 of those guys are excellent on the forecheck. They're going to turn pucks over the offensive zone, maintain possession, and probably score a lot of goals that way too. So that top 6 is a nightmare matchup for any team going up against them. But yeah, again, if only his name was Anton, but now it is, because we said it was. So there you go. But yeah.
All right. 3rd line. We've got Noel Nord, Zeb Forsfjall, and Lucas Pettersson.
Early impression. This is like the, so Noel Nord is like 6'5", 6'4", 6'5". Zeb Forsfjall is 5'9", and Lucas Pettersson's like 6 foot even. So this is kind of like the not too hot, not too cold, just right line. We're all 3 kind of a little bit. It's beautiful. So when you look at this, is a really interesting trio as well. Like Zeb Forsfjall does not jump off the page in terms of like any flashy plays that he makes, but he is just incredibly reliable defensively. I think when I was tracking his draft year, and this is like a very minute stat, like not that important, but it was just like unbelievably impressive. I think he like his faceoffs, I think he was like 78%, and he took all of them. Like it was like not just like he took a couple, he was their go-to faceoff guy and almost won like 80% of his faceoffs. But such a good two-way center that can chip in. Again, probably not even like secondary offense, but like again, 3rd line, there you go, tertiary. But just a really, really solid all-around player. Noel Nord is an excellent defensive forward that, again, also, despite when you look at it, you don't really think of a guy with like tons of skill, but similar to Kumpalainen, really good in transition, really good hands, and he is a very good finisher. Lucas Pettersson is a ton of fun, super fast, really good two-way play, but the offensive upside is legit. Another guy, he can score goals. He's like flashes some dynamic playmaking ability. He ripped apart. He was one of the top scorers of the J20 this year in Sweden. So another just like really intriguing, well put together line that I think there is absolutely some offense in there, but that is a tough line to get any offense against. So really like that for a 3rd line. Interesting that they have Pettersson at the wing versus Forsfjall, because Pettersson historically has always played center. Forsfjall bounced back and forth. But these are 3 guys that are probably also going to be like 3 of your go-to guys for the PK that can also count on the PK as well. I know Pettersson, Nord especially, actually all 3 of them really have actually produced some decent offense, like shorthanded. So really, really good 3rd line for Sweden. Love that combo.
Nice. And then the 4th line, we've got Jack Berglund, Linus Eriksson, and Victor Eklund. Is this a relative of Slippery Pete, or just Swedes have the same last names all the time?
I think they're just not creative enough. We're gonna name him Anton now too.
No, he's gonna be Slippery Dick.
Yeah, fair enough.
Actually, no, because Slippery Pete is not a Pete, so we're gonna call him Slippery. Can't go with Rick. Dang, I'm in trouble now. Slippery Colin. That's what we're gonna go with.
All right, we'll go with that one. Interesting choice. But really intriguing line here too. I would have, especially when you look at Jack Berglund. He's like a 6'5". He plays center for Färjestad. Played a couple of SHL games as well this year. First game in the SHL, did score. Of course he did. Again, a guy that I said it at the time when Philly took him at 50 or 51 in the second round. I thought it was probably a tad early, but I love the player. Really solid two-way centerman. And he can score goals. But again, like, he's super physical. He's a really good defensive guy that flashes some legit offense too. Linus Eriksson was one of my favorite players in this draft. I had him going in the first round. I loved that Florida got him in the second, I think. Yeah, second or third. I can't even remember. But I thought
it was second.
I think it was, but it could have been early third. I can't remember though. But Linus Eriksson, I like him a lot. Like, never going to be a guy that you're really looking to lean on for offense, but another guy can play center, can play wing. One of the smarter players in this past draft class, and probably like the definition of just a reliable player in any scenario. Most of the points that he put up this year, both in the Allsvenskan as well as like in the J20, it was like crunch time goals where it was either like getting a late, like 2-goal lead, or just going and scoring a tying goal or like a winning goal. Like, he's a big time, big moment player. So having him in your bottom six is dangerous. And Victor Eklund's awesome. Another guy is a 2025 draft eligible. He played a ton of Allsvenskan hockey this year as a draft -1 and put up a good amount of points. He was right there with Bronseg Nygaard, and especially in the playoffs with point production as a young player. So I would have thought they'd given the profile of Berglund and Eriksson, and he's listed as an extra here. Another one of my favorites from this past year, Simon Zether, another Florida draft pick. Big 6'5", two-way forward, really, really, really good defensively that has chipped in offense as well. When he played like junior hockey in the J20 as a draft -1, I think he put up like 50 points in 35 games, something like that. And then he went and pretty much only played in the SHL in his draft year and was obviously used as like a bottom or a fourth line center and was excellent for Rogla on a really good Rogla team. So I would have probably assumed that they would have put him there over Eklund, but Eklund gives that line an extra boost of offense. So it's not like crazy that they would have put him there. I kind of have a feeling that it will be Zether, to be honest with you, and maybe Eklund as the extra, but maybe not. But again, that forward group is just so well balanced. All four lines is just like they hit every area of the game. So
isn't that Sweden every time, right?
Yeah. And like that's how they that's just how they develop their players too. Like, there's very few guys that it's like he's only offense. He does nothing. He gives you nothing else. Like, they are generally a very well-rounded team.
And I mean, generally more handsome too than the other prospects. That's just goes with the territory. Going to the blue line then. First pairing, Theo Lindstein and Axel Sandin. Is it Pelika or Pelika? I've heard both so many times.
I've heard both. So at this point, we'll go Pelika.
We're calling him Aspen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going ASP. ASP has been Sweden's like best defenseman at the last 2 tournaments. And like that includes that bullshit ass summer World Junior tournament where he was not expected. Actually, no, that's not true. That was the winter one. This is gonna be his 3rd World Juniors. Yeah. But he was pretty much thrown in that roster because like he was ripping apart the J20 like 2.5 points per game. And then they threw him on there to probably be like more of a bottom pair guy, maybe like a seventh D-man. And by the end of the tournament, he was their leading defenseman in terms of ice time. He chipped in offense. Again, for a guy that's undersized and for a guy with a profile of like an offensive defenseman, he is a really, really good defender as well, especially against the rush. He's super physical for his size, so he's just like such a fun player. Obviously was one of my draft sons last year. Theo Lindstein's interesting. I was pretty shocked that St. Louis took him in the first round. For me, he felt like more of a second, third round guy. But in terms of like his mobility and his transition game, he's incredible. Like just transporting the puck from D to defensive to offensive zone. He's one of your go-to guys, so it's an intriguing pair.
We did talk about the fact that they literally threw $4.5 million at Broberg. Are you really shocked they took Theo Lindstein in the first?
It's a good point. Yeah.
All right. Moving on.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because typically they've had Lindstein and Willander play together, but I think this top four like kind of actually balances out a little bit better. But yeah, no, Theo Lindstein though, like again, he's never gonna like his. It's funny, his flashy plays really are like in transition where he's just like juking guys out of their shoes or out of their skates, I guess. Like in the neutral zone and like into the offensive zone. But in terms of like, I don't really see him putting up a ton of points, but he's a reliable guy. Again, like his transition ability is a big time weapon. That's his best asset is the mobility of the transition game. So that pair together is very interesting. It'll be like ASP. He's ripped apart every World Junior that he's played in so far. I expect nothing less from it. He might really, really pop off. He might be one of the players of the tournament here.
And let's be real. The first pairing is the handsome Swede pairing. The second pairing is like, we promise we are Swedish.
I swear.
Let's talk about the second pairing then. We've got Leo Saline Wallenius, drafted this year by the Sharks, which part of a great draft class for them. Holy shit. And then Isha's new crush, Tom Willander, obviously going to Vancouver.
Yeah. So starting with Charlene Wallenius, really interesting player when you talk to different scouts. Some people see a ton of upside. Other people see like, yeah, he'll be a reliable bottom pair guy that can chip in some offense. He's okay defensively, but his big calling cards, the mobility and the offensive game, especially in the offensive zone, that's really kind of where he separates himself. Like it was him and Alphonse Fry this past year playing on the same Swedish junior team. I think most people probably had Fry ahead of him. Gives you like the right shot, the size, and like the all-around play. But Charlene Wallenius probably makes a lot more high-end upside kind of plays there. Really intriguing player, offensive from the back end, and again, like his really, really good in transition. So pretty fun player. And historically for Sweden has been excellent, and that speaks to Tom Willander as well. A massive riser in his draft class. Obviously, one of my favorite defensemen in that class. Big right shot defenseman, super mobile, one of the better defenders in that draft class, and he ended up popping off a little bit offensively as time went on there. He has always been one of Sweden, if not Sweden's best defensemen at all of the international tournaments that he's played in. So I expect nothing less from him. Played at BU last year, looked pretty good.
There, though, if he had played college hockey in the Midwest, would you feel the same way?
No, I would hate him. He's just terrible. He's just not good. That's what I would say. But it's funny though, because I look at Willander, who like played a good amount with like Hudson this year, and then like Charlene Wallenius models his game somewhat after a guy like Hudson, where it's like an undersized guy that makes a ton of flashy plays offensively. Not the same level. I like anytime you make some kind of comp like that, people immediately be like, "Oh, what? Cole Hudson's my favorite player. How dare you ever say it?"
Did you see his brother Lane?
Yeah, but in terms of just like the style, it's very similar. So, that's what I meant. I meant to say Lane Hudson. I'm gonna do that so fucking often. It's gonna drive me insane. I'm gonna say Cole and Lane way too. Ugh.
That's all right. Moving past it.
But very intriguing pair.
Third pairing, we've got Noel Franzen, Shocker, Carolina, and Axel London.
Yep. They're two polar opposites, but make total sense playing together. So Noel Franzen, once again, at no point did I think there was another fucking team in the NHL that was going to draft him other than Carolina. He is the prototypical Carolina Hurricane defensive draft play. Like, he's so much fun. Like, I think this year he scored as a defenseman playing for Färjestad with Jack Berglund. I think he scored like 25 goals. At times can go on way too many solo missions. And in the J20, a lot of times he was pulling that off, like successfully, obviously. Another guy that, much like his teammate, Jack Berglund, his first game in the SHL, he scored there too. So he's got a couple games of pro hockey under his belt, but he is all transition, all offense. There's a little bit of it's not like he can't defend, but his big calling card is with the puck. And he's really fun to watch, makes a ton of like highlight reel plays. And then you have Axel Landon, a big, mean right shot defenseman who his game is mostly predicated on his defensive ability, but at the same time has like chipped in some offense here and there. But again, he is going to be a guy that's going to be shutting it down the back end. So like that pair together is very fun. And with Axel Landon too, he's a really good skater. He's super mobile. So even though he's not going to put up a ton of points, like we've said about prospects in the past, like some of his offensive value just comes from his transition ability and getting the puck into the offensive zone from the D zone. So really, really well-balanced back end for Sweden. If they really, one guy that I'm surprised is left off here, but realistically, when you look at the guys that they have in, it makes sense, is the somehow second round pick of Ottawa this past year, Gabriel Eliasson, 6'7", easily the meanest player in this past year's draft class. He has always played for Team Sweden, and he is actually like pretty solid when he goes and plays there. But like a guy that you aren't looking for like much of any offense, even though like, again, we different player, but we say the same about like Leskivar. It's like when they want to play, like there's good hands there, they can move pucks, but like they just love to hurt people. But Gabriel Eliasson is one that Sweden always looked. Yeah. Gabriel Eliasson's always a guy that Sweden has been. He's been like one of their go-to guys in the back end, like historically the past few years at like the U17, U18 level. So I'm somewhat surprised that they would leave him off. And again, I think he's a fine player. Second round was crazy, but like Eliasson not being here is interesting to me. Especially when you look at like this group, they probably would like to have someone with a like Landon. Axel Landon's big, he's mean, but like again, Eliasson was legitimately the fucking meanest player in this past year's draft class, and probably would have been the last like 2 or 3 years. Like he is,
he'll be back.
He's scary, and like a lesser player that they listed as an extra here. Like Axel Hertig, same thing. He's a very mean left shot D man with
I
good
love
size.
all the Axels. That's a lot of Axels.
Yeah, a lot. We need. That's what like. Let's throw them in there. At least bring them.
Gotta try. All right, and then goalie, which I'm sure we have very little to say. We've got Melker Thielen and Marcus Gidloff with Olaf Glifford as an extra. I assume nothing to say on that.
Thielen and Gidloff, those were the only two guys realistically that were gonna be named here. They've both got pretty solid track records with Team Sweden, so again, not a huge surprise, just pretty good all around players there. Well, goalies.
I mean, they're players.
Technically,
they're not skaters, which is the weirdest way to phrase that.
It's so funny.
All right, last one here, and this one is going to be of particular interest, I guess, in a weird way. Because, fun fact, there are 0 Boston Bruins on any of these 4 rosters. But this one, we have 3 Minnesota Wild players and 2 Pittsburgh Penguins. So this is going to be a fun one for us. Team Finland, I'll, again, like I've done before, we're going to go left wing, center, right wing, and then we'll go through D pairings. First line, Topias Heinonen, draft eligible this year, Konsta Helenius, and Kasper Halttunen. Second line, Julius Miettinen, centered by Baby Yager, Rasmus Kumpalainen, and then right wing Emil Hemming. Third line, Jesse Nurmi, Atos Koivu, and Jesse, is it Kiiskinen? I can't tell if that's KLI or KII.
I.
Awesome name. Love that. I hate that he plays for or he's drafted by Detroit. Then we've got Una Saarlainen, Heikki Ronan. I'm doing my best here, guys. Kasper Pikkarainen. There we go. That rounds out the forward group. I love anyone that's watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on podcast, check out the YouTube. The facial expression on Heikki Ronan is great. He's just like kind of quizzical. He's like, huh? All right, moving past that. We have the D pairings. This one is a Pittsburgh, Minnesota pairing. We've got the steal of the draft, Aaron Kiviharju, with Emil Pienaniemi. Second pairing, VT Väisänen and Minnesota Wild's Sebastian Sawinni. Came in at number 20 in our prospect pool ranking. Everyone go check out those videos on YouTube. And then third pairing, we've got Pittsburgh's Kalle Kangas with Mitja Jokinen, who is undrafted. And then in net, we've got Emil Vinny and Noah Valley. And extras, I have not heard of any of them. Go Z.
Am I back?
I think you're back. Go off. Talk about this roster. Whether or not you've heard everything, just go.
I am barely back. I'm definitely very delayed. Oh, there we go. Now it's a little better. Yeah, I mean, so right now, and like we saw this at the Hlinka as well, Finland's definitely in a bit of a downturn just in terms of like their junior hockey. There's a lot of players here that you like. And actually, honestly, I really like their second line projection here and guys like Miettinen, Kumpalainen, and Hemming. That being said, like even that line, you are really depending on Emil Hemming, like having a big tournament if they're going to make any noise here. That bottom six, I love. And like we profiled this guy a little bit. Heikki Ronan, the Flyers draft pick, really like that guy, really like that player. And actually it was like the one Flyers pick I was like, I like that player and where they took him. So like that was, a big win there.
The one Flyers win.
Yeah. And again, like on the back end, love Kiviharju. He's going to play a ton. And I mean, looked good. My buddy Lassie Allen at EP, he tweeted out a video earlier. I don't know if that was today or yesterday at this point. But the preseason game, Kiviharju's off to a pretty good start there. Like a lot of really good clips. Looks healthy, at least. Just as long as he stays healthy, that's a big win. VT Väisänen and Sawinni is fascinating to me. Väisänen was a guy that we profiled and projected at this time last year as a super high pick in the first round. Thought he was like fine throughout the year, but like didn't really pop off as much as we would have liked. Obviously went way later than we anticipated. We talked about Sawinni a lot. Ton of tools. Decision making is going to be a big question mark. That's going to be, honestly, like that could be the thing that really does end up affecting just his development in general. Because like in terms of raw athleticism, the fact he's a right shot, he's 6'2", how mobile he is, there should be so much more there. And whether or not he got like fast tracked to pro hockey way too early is going to be something that is going to play a role here. But I mean, when you just look at this Finnish group, it's like, man, individually, there's some really good players here. I do think they're probably, it just looks like a squad that it's going to struggle really to keep up with a lot of the other top dogs. I mean, everyone knows we love Hellenius. Looks like actually he's not playing in Finland this year. I think I saw that he's planning on coming to North America, which is fascinating.
Elaborate. Where?
I thought I mean, I think they're hoping that he might make the team out of camp.
Oh.
And remember when we talked about players that potentially he was right. He's been everyone's conversation. Like his style, how well he played pro last year in Finland. It's not out of the realm possibility where he plays well.
Doesn't it feel weird in Buffalo of all places though?
Yep.
Like
at this point, they have so many excellent young players that
they sent one away for fucking McLeod.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know. But I feel like I saw a report like 2 weeks ago.
You need a third line center.
Yeah. But I mean, like Haltunen, really good in the OHL. He's a big guy, sniper. He's got a great shot. Again, when I look at their forward lines, I really like the second line more than any of the others.
Yes, you Nermy and Keith way to ignore the Penguins defenseman. It feels a little.
I'm going.
You just wove through the entire decor except for them.
I did not. I mentioned 3 of them.
Somebody's looking at
my line now. Oh my god. The third line, Jesse Nurmi and Kiiskinen, those are 2 guys that like really flashed some upside in their draft year, and then pretty up and down. Atus Koivu, mentioned plenty, like very intriguing player. Obviously, we love the NHL bloodline there. But that feels like a line that like could be fine. And if Kiiskinen and Nurmi really pop off, like they could make some noise. Oddly enough, their fourth line probably rivals their second line in terms of like a trio that I like the overall package and think could do some real damage. Saralainen's fun. He is a sniper. He's got some ridiculous hands. He's got decent size. We talked about Heikki Ronan before. Really solid 2-way forward. When he's on, he projects to be like a really just solid power forward guy without being super physical. But really good hands. Very smart. Fun player. And Pikkarainen, same thing. Like one of his big calling cards was his shot. Whether or not he's going to use it or be able to use it as much as you'd like in order for it to be effective, we'll see. But like that trio is very interesting to me. So it's like really their second and fourth line projection here that I think has some like possibilities to really help them at least make noise. And they're going to need those guys. Then you go to defense. Like this is where they're really going to need all of these guys to really perform. Kivi Harju and Pieni Niemi. Really like that that duo. Kivi Harju again, like solid all around D-man when he's defending against the rush. Again, as an undersized D-man, it's in his own zone, extended possessions where it becomes a little bit in question. But like again, against the rush, he's able to kill plays. That's why I like him being paired with Pieni Niemi. Pieni Niemi. There we go. He's like Menemone. Same thing. He's gonna be able to like be a little bit more of a backstop while giving some like offensive flair there too. So I do like that combo. And again, like I think once they get in zone, like Pieni Niemi is gonna be able to help out there defensively. Vicent and Suini, again, 2 guys with a ton of tools. And you're just waiting for him to really like figure it out and put it all together. So that's like super intriguing. You could also see it being a disaster. Like it's kind of like one or the other with them. And then, I mean, Kangas is fucking huge. He's big and like just a defensive defenseman, but he's flashed some like pretty fun offense at times too. I remember this draft year, I'll be honest with you, intrigued by the name. So I watched a little bit of him and it was just like, yeah, he's fucking huge. And he pretty much lives in his own end. But then like when he like let him off the leash a little bit, he was capable of making some plays and moving pucks. And I haven't seen enough of Jokinen really to make much of a determination. I would have probably put a kid like Daniel. I think it's honestly much like Emil here. Daniel, it's like Niemi or something. Oh God. I don't think he got drafted. Yeah. I actually liked him a lot. He's a big 2-way right shot D-man. Did he get drafted this year? I was shocked, actually. I thought he would have gone like 4th or 5th round. I probably would have put him in this lineup because I think there's some legit upside and I like him a lot. And then their extras, Emil Kusla, another guy that was like pretty shocking. Did he get drafted this year? But Yeah, I mean, as a whole, Finland, I think, is gonna. They're really like everyone's gonna have to play like a 9 out of 10 game for them to like make any noise whatsoever. Hellenius is really gonna have to pop off, but they're just like not on the same level as those top 3 teams there.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. And I feel like Jokinen is just like the most Finnish looking guy ever.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not racist, so you can't throw that at me.
Allegedly.
Fun. Holy shit, we did it. This was supposed to be a short one, and somehow it became a long one, and there's going to be a lot of episodes dropping this week, which, by the way, if anyone hasn't already listened, we dropped both on YouTube and on podcast form prospects 16 through 20 for the Minnesota Wild. Definitely worth your while to go check out because there's some great players in that mix, which just says great things about what Judd Brackett's done to bolster this prospect pool. I don't know. Z, are we at the point now where it's no longer a prospect pool? It's more like a prospect water park.
I mean, I love that.
Wisconsin Dells. Like, let's call this the Prospect Dells.
Oh, all right. All right. Now we're cooking. That woke me up a little bit.
All right, another hour. Nope. All right, we're wrapping it up. This is so over.
Let's talk Lemieux. Let's talk about Mario Lemieux.
Best player that's ever existed in the NHL. I got nothing else to say.
Did we have any comments that we missed? That we wanted to...
Yeah, there's a couple that I saved, and might as well hit those real quick. And actually, there's really just one that I want your opinion on, but I'll throw this up from Mateo too. Just a shout out again to the Scott Wheeler appearance on Fellowship of the Rink. Everyone go check out the latest episode. He jumped on with us for like 40 minutes, which is, I don't know why anyone would talk to us for that long, but it was awesome that he did. I said, I'm not
less surprised.
I'm not going to lie. The comment Scott made about Sawinny was hilarious, but also kind of concerning about him actually making the team. So that's a teaser. You guys should all go listen to the episode for that one. But this one I think is a good one, Z. I'm actually kind of curious where you're going to fall on this. From Brendan. Thanks for tuning in, Brendan, because I don't know if you've commented on here before. I don't remember a Brendan. So who has the better chance of being a regular in the NHL? So we're not talking about which line they're going to be on, just a regular. Rieger Lorenz or Riley Heidt?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably still stick with Heidt. As a massive Lorenz fan. If only one of them is going to make or become a full-time NHL guy, I think Heidt has shown for a longer period of time that not only does he have some ridiculous upside, but another guy that can play center, he can play wing. He's been historically a very good two-way guy, super smart player, and has real bite to his game. Rieger Lorenz, like we've seen him play in the AJ, obviously like destroy that fucking league.
Eviscerated, some might say.
Yeah, I tried to use a different word this time other than rip apart or eviscerate. Defenestrated. We've seen him play in the AJ, first year in college hockey. The combination of him playing on like a reigning national contender or national champion, having injury troubles, being 18 fucking years old. Obviously freshman year was not one that he's going to like remember fondly, but massive bounce back year and obviously like points in the national championship game on both goals. So we've seen like one really good year against really fucking good competition, like some of the best competition in terms of guys his age. So we've just seen a longer track record and probably like even still, actually that's not even a stretch to say it, but just more upside with Heidt. So I would say if only one of them's become a full-time NHL guy, you're probably looking at Heidt there. But I love, again, I am all aboard the Rieger Lorenz train. I've been for a while. I think he's going to be a very good player in the NHL. But again, if you're making me pick one or the other to be a full-time NHL guy, I think I lean Heidt.
I mean, I'm with you. I'm obsessed with Riley Heidt, but I get the question in the sense of like Rieger Lorenz seems like a no shit bottom six forward, whereas like Heidt If he doesn't make it as a top 6 guy, is there a spot for him in the bottom 6? Maybe not. Like I think that was actually a really interesting one. And I'm surprised Z was so firm on height. I don't know.
No, yeah. And like again, like I think what?
It's too easy to get you going. Like you had a very good answer, but just the fact that I threw any doubt towards Lorenz, you're like, oh, I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes convincing you I love Lorenz.
Well, that's not what I'm doing.
No.
But if someone asks a question, I feel like it's worth at least talking about it. But like the thing with Lorenz too is this is like the first year that, and it was fucking awesome that not only did they use him in all 3 zones and on the PK, but also that like he excelled in that role too. The fact that like this is the first time we've seen him really have to be used in that role and excel, and not just like being able to be on like their PK and again like score shorthanded, but like against the best teams in the country. That's fucking incredible, which like you said shows that not only does he have that legit upside, like we've seen him score, and he scored this year, but like you said, like he's shown that, yeah, he can actually also give you some 2-way play too. My thing is, again, like Riley Heidt has just always had that 2-way game. And I think I'm pretty confident in him, even if he doesn't hit his ceiling, he's going to be a legit high upside player. I think he's going to hit top 6 because like he's just that good. So really it comes down to like the longer track record against stiffer competition and a guy like Riley Heidt. And I still think the upside's just you lean Heidt there too.
No, but I'm not going to argue. I love him.
Yeah. No, like that's a good question though.
All right, we did it. Did the thing.
Did the thing or whatever. Next week we'll know about which offer sheet was successful, which one was not.
Or both.
They have what, like 5 more days? When was the offer sheet? Yesterday or 2 days ago?
2 days ago. So we'll know 2 days in advance. And it's gonna be so fun.
All right. This is great. We're not talking about something that's going to happen before this episode. That's always a tightrope and a half. Trying to nap.
This episode will be dropping on Tuesday.
Fuck.
Oh man. Awesome.
Good stuff, baby. Yeah, so again, next week, Thursday, and then TBD, I guess. Is that what you're saying?
TBD, I guess. We're going to be shifting to Monday eventually. We will let you know when that is. But next week, Thursday.
To all 2 of you still tuning in live.
There's at least 4.
And
don't be a dick.
Is there someone behind me? It was just you and me. No one else is here.
It's true.
Every comment's just one of my burners. I have endless amounts of burners.
There is absolutely 0% chance you put in the effort it would take to run that many burners in the same live chat. There's no way in any conceivable world.
That's not true. The
motivation would be you would love to do it. You would never act on it.
The only reason that you know for a fact that was a lie from me is because if that was the case and I had endless amounts of burners, the comment bar would be flying because it would be all about Felix Unger-Sorum. Did you know that he's the best player that's ever played hockey in the world ever? World hockey best player ever?
It would all be, why didn't Chara give Patrice the C sooner?
People forget. Chara's a piece of shit. Notorious bad guy. Fucking selfish.
Z is a heel. That's why he decided to make his whole persona and Twitter brand off of this scumbag human.
Did I tell you last week someone was like, wait, you're not Chara? I was like, motherfucker. I'm like, I thought we did this one. Yes,
I am. Yes, I am.
Yeah, well, last time I did this, it turned into a lifelong friend, but it started on a rocky road. It's fine, though.
Hang on.
But anyways.
All right. Trav Zimmerman here saying that he's got a cousin that plays for Denver. We need to hear more. Tune in next week to find out who Trav's cousin is.
The new host of this show. Still can stick with the Z's, actually. It's still going to be Judd'z. It's the only eligible guy to be the new host.
Hang on. Spoke Zeev.
Oh, God. Yeah.
The urge.
Listen. The pain, the suffering that I went through when Chara signed with Washington and was about to not be a Bruin. I had an actual I remember exactly where I was. It's my parents' living room. I was like, do I have to what do I do? I didn't know what to do. I was like, what's this Twitter account? Am I a Cap? I can't be a Caps guy.
Are you sitting down?
No.
What if I told you that Wild fans reacted the exact same way to Mikko Koivu going to Columbus? As if he was Zdeno Chara.
Well, listen, I've never met a Minnesota fan that panics about any news whatsoever.
Fact.
So I think you're lying to me.
Made up.
Anyone have any topics about sandwiches to debate, whether it's a sandwich or not? Just keep this going for 2 hours like we did a couple weeks ago.
Meatball sub is absolutely not a sandwich.
Dude, after we hung up, I was like, dude, that was a 2-hour show. We did like an hour and a half on sandwiches.
That was something.
That happened.
Oh, man. God damn it, it just ended.
I don't know how.
End it.
That's not true. I did it on accident once. That was funny.
Z, what did you have for dinner?
I didn't have dinner. Beers. I had beers.
Was it cocaine?
You know what I used
Got
to have
it.
for breakfast?
Got him.
Cocaine. You know what I used to have for lunch? Cocaine. Whichever dinner was it cocaine? Hey.